Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are staring directly at something that is uh, shiny, heavy, and apparently completely defying the laws of modern logic.
It seems to be, yes.
We need to talk about what is happening right now, specifically looking at the chaotic context of the market as of Thursday, January 29, 2026.
Right.
Because if you have been watching the tickers or just doom scrolling through financial news, you might feel like you are hallucinating.
It is certainly a confusing time for anyone trying to apply, let's say, traditional market logic to what we're seeing on the screen. The numbers are frankly dizzying.
Dizzying, yeah.
They don't seem to care about the old rules at all.
Confusing is an understatement. I mean, let's just look at the board for a second and really acknowledge the madness here.
Let's do it.
We have gold numbers that are jumping around like a seismograph during an earthquake. I was looking at the historical charts, and we saw gold trading at $400 an ounce not that long ago.
$400, it feels like a lifetime ago.
It really does. Looking back, it feels incredibly low, almost like a discount bin price at a thrift store.
Like a historical artifact, yeah.
Then, okay, we saw it hit 1,800 a few months ago, and we all thought, okay, that's the ceiling. That's a new normal.
That felt like a huge number at the time, a real psychological barrier.
And now, this is the part that makes my eyes water. We are seeing certificate prices hitting 5,400.
5,400.
It is volatility on a scale that we usually associate with, like meme coins or tech startups that don't even have a product yet, not the standard for global wealth.
Exactly. And that is the central tension, I think, that we need to explore today. It's a massive paradox.
It really is.
Think about where we are in history right now. We are living in arguably the most digital, the most intangible era ever.
Absolutely. Everything's in the cloud.
Right. We have artificial intelligence that's reshaping the workforce. It's writing code. It's generating art. We have Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies challenging the very idea of money, arguing that, code is better than government promises.
Right. We have these ethereal assets where people are buying rights to digital art that doesn't physically exist anywhere in the real world.
We are used to paying for air. That's become normal.
It has. And yet, in the middle of all this high-tech abstraction, the entire world, I'm talking banks, nations, regular people, is rushing back to the oldest rock in the book.
The oldest, heaviest, shiniest rock.
That is the part I can't wrap my head around. Why, in the age of AI and quantum computing, are we obsessed with the yellow metal that just sits there?
It's a great question.
It doesn't do anything. You can't eat it. It doesn't run software. It just exists.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like we're regressing. It feels like we're trading in our spaceships for horses.
Or that we're realizing the spaceship was maybe made of cardboard all along.
It's a terrifying thought. But clearly, the market knows something we don't, or maybe it's panicking about something we aren't seeing yet. To help us navigate this, we are going to be diving deep into the insights of Mookie Tenenbaum.
Right. And for those who might not follow international commentary closely, Mookie Tenenbaum is a fascinating figure to guide us here because he isn't just a financial analyst.
No, not at all.
He doesn't just look at the spreadsheets and calculate PE ratios or look at moving averages. He's an international observer who connects these financial dots to history, psychology, and geopolitics.
Which is where the real story is.
It is. He looks at gold not just as a commodity on a chart, but as a symptom of human behavior. He warns us about what lies beneath the surface of these crazy price spikes.
And that is our mission today. We are not just giving you investment advice. In fact, let's be super clear. Legal disclaimer time. We're definitely not giving you investment advice.
Please don't.
Do not go buy gold because of the deep dive. But we're trying to understand why the world is hoarding it. And more importantly, we are going to uncover a terrifying concept that Tenenbaum warns about, the illusion of the paper market. Because apparently, what you think you own might not actually exist.
And that is the absolute crux of it. We need to talk about value, we need to talk about trust, and the potential collapse of these paper promises. Because when you see price jumps like this, it's rarely just about supply and demand of the metal itself.
It's about something else.
It is usually about fear.
So let's start at the very beginning. Or, well, close to the beginning.
Yeah.
Why gold? Why not platinum? Why not copper? Why not, I don't know, really nice seashells? Because honestly, if I'm looking for something pretty, there are other options.
There are prettier things, arguably.
Why did we settle on this specific element to run the world?
It is a great question. And to answer it, Tenenbaum takes us back to Plato.
Plato, the philosopher, the toga guy.
The very same. Not exactly a Wall Street analyst, but he had this profound insight. He said, everything converts to gold, and gold converts to all things.
Okay, that sounds very philosophical and deep. But practically, what does it mean for someone trying to buy bread in ancient Athens?
Well, it means gold was the bridge. It was the invention that allowed humanity to skip barter.
Ah, the barter system. The I'll trade you 3 chickens for that pot problem.
Exactly. Think about the logistics of the ancient world. Before gold, if you had a cow and you wanted wheat, you had to find a guy with wheat who just happened to want a cow.
Which seems inefficient.
It's called the coincidence of wants problem. It's incredibly inefficient. You might starve while you're looking for a cow-wanting wheat farmer, or maybe the wheat farmer is gluten intolerant, or maybe he already has too many cows.
Right. It's a logistical nightmare.
And gold became the universal translator of value. It solved that nightmare. You sell your cow for gold, then you use the gold to buy wheat from anyone, anywhere, anytime.
It's like the first universal API for trade.
That's a great way to put it. And Tenenbaum makes a really interesting point about this idea of universal acceptance. He says gold is the only currency that has survived every single major civilization.
Every single one. That seems like a stretch. Surely something else survived. Maybe salt or silver.
He's very clear on this. Every one. Ancient Egypt, Babylon, China, India, the Americas, Africa. It doesn't matter where you look in the archaeological record, gold is there, and it's always at the top of the value chain.
That's incredible.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Tenenbaum points out that even island cultures that were completely isolated, cultures that use shells or giant carved stones as currency for thousands of years.
Yeah, the ray stones of Yap, right?
Exactly. The moment they were introduced to gold by, say, European explorers, they switched. Instantly.
Just like that. No transition period.
They didn't need a marketing campaign. They didn't need a government mandate explaining why gold was better. They immediately recognized it as the superior store of value. It was intuitive. They just threw away the shells and adopted the metal.
That is wild. It's like there's some biological imperative in humans to like shiny, heavy things. It taps into the lizard brain or something.
It must. It's dense, it's rare, it doesn't tarnish, it feels permanent.
And you mentioned survival. We have other currencies that have been around for a while. What about the British pound? That feels pretty historic. I mean, the Bank of England is an institution.
It is historic. The British pound is over 350 years old. It's impressive for a paper currency.
For paper, yeah.
But Mookie Tenenbaum notes that even the most stable currencies are constantly dying a slow death. The British pound has lost half its value relatively recently in historical terms.
And the dollar. We always talk about the strong dollar.
The dollar is stable compared to other paper currencies, maybe. As the saying goes, it's the cleanest shirt in the dirty laundry basket.
I heard that one.
But compared to gold, no. The dollar is constantly devaluing against gold. The key concept here, the one we have to understand, is that all paper currencies devalue. They are designed to inflate.
By design, not by accident.
Absolutely by design.
Okay.
Governments print more to manage debts, to fund wars, to pay for social programs. It's a silent tax on savers. But gold remains constant. The gold from 500 BC is still here today. It hasn't rusted, it hasn't corroded, and it hasn't been inflated away by a central bank printing more of it. It doesn't disappear.
That durability is key. I guess I never thought about it that way, that the gold in a museum mask from ancient Egypt could literally be melted down and used to buy a car today. And it's the exact same material.
It is. It's the same atoms.
It hasn't lost its chemical identity. It's immortal in a way.
Exactly. And that physical permanence has created a massive cultural imprint on us. Mookie Tenenbaum brings up a staggering statistic to illustrate this point.
Okay.
The word gold appears 417 times in the Bible.
417 times. That is a lot of product placement. That's more than most of the main characters get.
It is absolutely central. And it's not just the Bible. It is central in the Quran. It is central in the Vedas of India. It is the most mentioned metal in all of Mesopotamian history.
Wow.
This tells us that gold isn't just a financial asset. It is ingrained in human consciousness as the ultimate standard of perfection and value.
That's a good point. When we want to say something is the best, we say it's the gold standard.
We don't say it's the palladium standard. Even in the Olympics, nobody's fighting for the nickel medal.
Fair point. I've never asked for a platinum standard service. So we have this historical weight, this deep cultural programming. But let's look at the modern world. Where are we actually getting this stuff?
Right, the supply chain.
Because if everyone wants it, we must be digging it up as fast as possible, or are we running out?
We are certainly trying to dig it up, but the supply chain is shifting in some very interesting ways. According to Tenenbaum, the top producer right now is China. They are number one.
China. Okay, that makes a lot of sense geopolitically.
Right behind them, you have Russia, the USA, and Canada. The big players.
So the major world powers control the supply. That makes sense.
They do, but there is another layer to this, which is economic dependence. There are entire countries where gold isn't just a commodity, it is their absolute lifeline.
Like an oil state, but for gold.
Exactly. Tenenbaum highlights Ghana, where something like 94% of their exports is gold. 94%.
Wow, that's putting all your eggs in one basket.
One very shiny, very heavy basket. Or look at Peru, where 60% of their national income comes from gold mining. These economies rise and fall strictly on the price of the ounce.
That is incredibly risky for them. If the price of gold crashes for some reason, the entire country crashes with it. But okay, if we are digging it up constantly, shouldn't the price go down? Or is there just not enough of it?
That brings us to the scarcity reality. Mining is finite. And this is a really, really important point Tenenbaum makes about South Africa.
Right. South Africa used to be synonymous with gold. I remember learning that in school. The Krugerrand was the coin everyone knew.
It was the gold capital of the world for decades. But now, it is barely on the list of top producers.
What happened?
The mines effectively dried up. Or, to be more accurate, they became so deep and so dangerous that it became too expensive to extract the gold compared to what it was worth. They are digging kilometers down into the earth. The geology is getting harder.
So we've hit peak gold, or at least peak cheap gold.
In many places, yes. This proves that we can't just print more gold. When a mine is done, it's done. We can't algorithmically generate another vein of ore in the ground.
That is a very stark contrast to the Federal Reserve just adding a few zeros to a spreadsheet.
It couldn't be more different.
Now, I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier, silver. We saw silver jump from, what, $30 to $130? That's a huge jump. Is silver just gold light, or is it a totally different beast?
Mookie Tenenbaum makes a very sharp distinction here, and it is crucial for understanding the market. They are completely different beasts.
How so?
Silver and gold behave very differently because of how they are used. Silver is about 70% industrial.
Industrial, like in factories.
Exactly. Solar panels are a huge consumer of silver. It's one of the most conductive materials we have. So it's in electronics, batteries, medical devices. It's everywhere in modern tech.
So silver gets used up.
That's the key. It gets consumed. When silver is used in a chemical process or spread thinly across a solar panel, it is stuck there. If it's in a solar panel on a roof in Arizona, it's not being traded on the market. It often vanishes from the investment market.
So it's effectively destroyed or dispersed to the point where it's just not economical to recover it.
Precisely. It's gone from the system. Gold, on the other hand, is mostly hoarded.
It just sits in vaults.
It sits in vaults, it sits in jewelry boxes, it sits in central bank reserves. Tenenbaum points out that gold has minimal industrial use. Yes, it's used in high-end audio cables for conductivity, and yes, NVIDIA chips use a tiny amount of gold.
How tiny are we talking?
Exactly 0.03 grams of gold each, according to his research.
5.03 grams, that is nothing.
It's minuscule, but even that gold doesn't vanish. Eventually, we will recycle those chips to recover the gold. We'll burn the plastic off the board and the gold remains because it's so inert.
It survives the fire.
So gold never truly leaves the ecosystem. It just changes hands. Silver leaves.
That is a fascinating distinction. So buying silver is really a bet on industry, on the future of solar and tech.
Correct. A bet on economic growth.
But buying gold is a bet on psychology or safety.
It's a bet on fear. It's a bet against the system. It's a store of value. Which brings us to the most terrifying part of Tenenbaum's analysis.
Okay.
And this is where we need to really pay attention because this is the illusion in the title of our deep dive.
All right, I am ready. Lay it on me. What is the illusion?
It is the difference between buying physical gold and buying a promise of gold.
Paper gold.
Paper gold. And Tenenbaum presents a statistic that is frankly terrifying for anyone holding it. For every 1 ounce of physical gold in existence, there are 500 ounces of paper gold or certificates circulating.
Wait, stop. Let me make sure I heard that right. Did you say 500 to 1?
500 to 1. 500 to 1.
So if there are 500 people standing in a room and they are all holding a piece of paper that says, I own 1 ounce of gold, there is actually only 1 single ounce of gold in the room.
Precisely. That is the state of the market. And that is the mechanism of the scam, as Tenenbaum describes it. It's not necessarily illegal, it's how the market is structured, but it is a massive, massive structural vulnerability.
How does that even work? How do you sell 500 claims on one thing?
Here is how it works. You go to a broker, you pay the market price, say $5,400 for an ounce, and they give you a nice certificate. It looks official, it has a stamp, it's in your account.
But they don't hand you a coin.
They don't hand you a coin, they hand you a liability, a promise. The entire system is built on the assumption that everybody won't show up at once and ask for the real thing.
It sounds like a bank run, but for gold.
It's exactly a bank run. It's a game of musical chairs where there are 500 people in one chair.
That is exactly the analogy. Think about the movie The Big Short. Do you remember how they explained the mortgage crisis?
Yeah, with Selena Gomez at the poker table, they were betting on bets, synthetic CDOs.
It was a chain of liabilities, rights on rights on rights. It was a tower of paper promises. Tenenbaum warns that this is the same thing, just with gold.
It's the same structure. You have people buying certificates, and then you have institutions buying derivatives of those certificates, and ETFs buying futures contracts based on those certificates. It's a tower of paper built on a tiny, tiny foundation of rock.
The market just assumes that not everyone will want their gold at the same time.
It's the only way the system can function. It relies on complacency.
So what happens if people want the metal? Like, what if the music stops? What if people get scared and say, you know what, I want to hold it?
That is the doomsday scenario. That's the moment the illusion shatters.
Yeah.
Tenenbaum warns that if everyone goes to the London Metal Exchange, the LME, or their bank or their broker and says, thank you for holding this, I would like to redeem my paper for the physical metal now, please.
The system breaks.
The system collapses instantly. There simply isn't enough gold. The vault is empty relative to the claims against it.
And I assume the fine print on those certificates, the stuff nobody reads, says something like, subject to availability, or we reserve the right to pay you in cash equivalent.
Often, yes. That's the escape hatch. You might get your cash back. But here is the kicker. If the system is collapsing, that is the very moment the dollar is also collapsing.
Which is why you bought the gold in the first place.
Exactly. You bought gold to protect yourself from the cash. But the system forces you back into cash at the exact moment the cash is becoming worthless.
That is diabolical. It's a trapdoor. You think you're safe, but you're not. And you mentioned ETFs, exchange-traded funds. These are supposed to be the safe, easy way for normal people to invest. Just buy the ETF, they say.
It's diversified. It's liquid.
Are you telling me they're part of this 500 to 1 problem?
Tenenbaum argues that many of them are. He suggests that many of the largest and most popular gold ETFs don't even have the physical gold they claim to represent.
So what do they have?
They just hold other paper certificates or futures contracts. They own a claim on a claim. It's just more paper in their vault, not metal.
Wow. And speaking of futures, that is a whole other layer of the illusion, right?
It is. The futures market is literally selling gold that hasn't even been mined yet. It is gold that doesn't exist. You're buying a promise from a mining company that they will dig up an ounce of gold next year and give it to you.
You're buying gold that hasn't been dug out of the ground yet. That is optimistic. It's like selling the skin of the bear before you've even gone into the woods.
It is how the financial system creates liquidity. It makes trade easier. But in a crisis, liquidity dries up, and all that matters is reality. And the reality is that the ratio is 500 to 1.
Okay, so that is the paper market. It's a house of cards. A very tall, very shiny house of cards. But let's look at who is actually holding the real stuff. Because if I was a smart global player, and I knew this, I would be grabbing the physical metal, not the paper.
And that's exactly what's happening.
Who has the actual gold?
This is where we see a massive historic shift in global power. Tenenbaum highlights that central banks around the world are dumping U.S. Treasury bills. That's U.S. government debt. And they are buying physical gold.
That seems like a huge vote of no confidence in the U.S. economy. A really big deal.
It is significant. For decades, the standard play for a central bank was to hold U.S. debt. Why? Because it pays interest. You hold a T-bill, you get 3% or 5% a year. It's considered the risk-free asset that gives you a safe yield. Gold pays 0 interest.
Right. Gold is lazy money. It doesn't work for you. It just takes up space in a vault and costs you money to store it.
Exactly. But now, central banks are choosing security over profit. They are scared that the debt might not be paid back, or worse, that it will be paid back in dollars that are worth much, much less.
So they're preparing for a world where the dollar isn't the king anymore?
They are moving from a mindset of return on capital to return of capital. They just want to make sure the money is still there at the end of the day.
So the big banks, the national banks, are hoarding. But who else? You mentioned earlier that there's a surprising player in this game.
Yes. This is one of my favorite parts of Tenenbaum's analysis, the India phenomenon.
Yeah.
He reveals a fact that just blew my mind. There is more gold in private hands in India than in all the central banks of the world combined.
Get out of here. Private hands? You mean like regular people?
In their homes?
Regular households? Millions and millions of them. In India, gold isn't just an investment, it is the culture. It is the ancestral accumulation. It's for weddings, dowries, religious festivals. It's how you pass wealth to the next generation outside of the official banking system.
So it's not on a spreadsheet, it's in a jewelry box.
Or a safe. And they have a different standard, which is interesting. In the West, we often see 14 or 18 karat gold. In India, the standard is 22 karat. It's purer, it's much yellower, it's seen as more real.
I have heard stories about Indian weddings being lavish, but I didn't realize they were effectively outsaving the Federal Reserve. That is a massive amount of metal held by the public. It is a massive transfer of wealth from the financial system to the people, and the government tries to stop it. They hate it. They want that money in the banking system where they can tax it and control it, not in bracelets and necklaces.
So what do?
Tenenbaum notes that India officially imports about 800 tons of gold a year, despite a huge 15% tax designed to discourage people from buying it.
15%?
Yeah.
That is a steep tax. People still pay it.
They pay it, or they avoid it. And this leads to some incredible anecdotes. Muki Tenenbaum mentions the flights from Dubai to India, which are notorious for this.
What happens on those flights?
He describes passengers smuggling gold ingots in their underwear to avoid the tax.
You're kidding.
Not at all. Small, dense bars, it shows you how desperate people are to hold the physical asset. They trust the metal more than they trust their government's tax policy or their currency.
That is dedication to savings. Walking through customs with a gold bar in your underwear takes a special kind of nerve. And also, that has to be heavy. I mean, gold is incredibly dense.
It shows you the premium people will pay and the risks they will take just to hold the real thing. For them, it's not just an investment, it's freedom, it's insurance.
So we have India hoarding privately. What about nations? I know countries play strategic games with their reserves.
They do. And Tenenbaum contrasts two very different strategies, Argentina and Venezuela.
Okay, two very different economies.
Very different situations. Argentina recently sent its gold to London.
Why send it away? Isn't the whole point to keep it close? If you're worried about the world collapsing, why would you send your gold to another continent?
Well, Argentina's government is thinking like a banker. They wanted to invest it. By sending it to London, which is the center of the gold trade, they can use financial instruments, they can lease it out, they can write options against it to earn interest on the gold.
Ah, so they're trying to make the lazy asset work for them.
They are trying to have their cake and eat it too. They want the safety of gold, but the interest rate of a bond. It's a very sophisticated but also risky move.
Okay, that is the savvy banker move. Let's leverage this. What about Venezuela?
Venezuela took the exact opposite approach. They moved their gold to Turkey and the UAE.
To hide it.
Essentially, to avoid seizure. Tenenbaum notes the widespread suspicion that this gold is strictly for the regime's survival. If you are a country afraid of international sanctions or you're worried your accounts are going to be frozen by the U.S. or Europe,
You don't keep your gold in New York or London.
you absolutely do not. You move it to friendly jurisdictions where the rules are different. It's gold as a survival kit for the state itself.
So Argentina is playing the banker and Venezuela is playing the survivalist. It really shows how gold adapts to whatever fear you have.
It's the ultimate chameleon of assets.
And speaking of fear, let's talk about what is driving the price right now. Why is it exploding in 2026? What's the catalyst?
Tenenbaum links it directly to fear. It is the fear factor. It's a confluence of several major fears hitting all at once. You have fear of AI taking jobs, which creates massive economic uncertainty for millions of people. You have fear of war, the ongoing tensions in Ukraine, the constant threat of a conflict over Taiwan with China, and perhaps the biggest one, the one that underpins everything,
Let me guess. U.S. debt.
fear of U.S. default.
That phrase keeps coming up. It sounds impossible, right? The U.S. always pays its debts. That's the bedrock of the global economy. The risk-free rate refers to U.S. treasuries.
Historically, yes. But Tenenbaum points to a very important precedent, the 1971 Nixon shock, We need to remember that from 1945 to 1971, under the Bretton Woods system, the dollar was backed by gold. Foreign central banks could technically show up and exchange their dollars for U.S. gold.
It was an anchor.
It was an anchor. But in 1971, Nixon unilaterally defaulted on that obligation. He closed the gold window. He broke the umbilical cord to allow for more spending and economic growth.
So strictly speaking, the U.S. has defaulted on a gold promise before.
Exactly. It has happened. And the current fear is political. There are persistent rumors, and Tenenbaum mentions this in the context of the current political landscape, that under a populist administration, the U.S. might decide to default on its debt again or restructure it in a way that hurts bondholders.
So people are fleeing the dollar because they're afraid the rules of the game are about to change fundamentally.
If the U.S. government says, we aren't paying or we're going to pay you half, then the dollar is just paper? And everyone is rushing for the exit at once.
It is a flight to safety. Wait, isn't that what Bitcoin was supposed to be? Digital gold?
Mm-hmm.
The libertarians have been screaming about this for a decade. Why aren't they just buying Bitcoin?
That is the great irony, isn't it? Tenenbaum compares the two. Both gold and Bitcoin are reactions to this ethereal economy we've built. We are used to paying for air, crypto, AI art subscriptions.
Right.
Bitcoin is code. It is scarce, yes, but it is ultimately intangible. It's an idea. Gold exists physically. You can drop it on your foot.
But Tenenbaum's whole point is that the gold market has become just as fake as the crypto market in a way.
Precisely. Because of that 500.1 certificate ratio, Mookie Tenenbaum argues the gold market has become just as ethereal as crypto for most people. If you own paper gold, you are essentially owning a meme coin backed by a rock that you will never, ever see.
You're just trusting a database.
You're trusting a database, just like Bitcoin, but the database is run by a bank, not a decentralized blockchain.
So we are trapped between digital code and paper promises. It makes you want to go buy a shovel and start digging in your backyard.
It does. But before we finish, we have to look at the darker side of this history. Because gold isn't just about wealth and empires, it's also about tragedy and survival.
The human cost.
Right. Tenenbaum brings up the Holocaust connection.
This is a heavy turn, but it is so necessary to understand the psychology of gold. Why is it so deeply linked to survival for some cultures?
It is. For 1,800 years in Europe, Jewish people were often forbidden from owning land. If you can't own land, you can't build generational wealth through real estate. You can't put down roots in the same way.
So your wealth had to be portable.
It had to be. Jewish savings were often kept in gold coins. It was portable wealth. If you had to flee in the middle of the night, you could sew it into the lining of your coat.
That context makes the hoarding of gold feel much more desperate. It's not about getting rich. It's about having a parachute. It's about knowing you can leave if the knock on the door comes.
It's the ultimate escape fund. And Tenenbaum recounts these chilling stories of neighbors in places like Poland who, after Jewish families were taken away to the camps, would destroy the houses.
Destroy them? Why?
Tearing apart the walls, ripping up the floorboards, looking for the hidden gold they knew must be there. It shows how gold drives a frenzy. It brings out the absolute darkest greed in people. It turns a community into a scavenging ground.
And there's a connection to Argentina here too, right? With the Nazis who fled after the war.
Yes. The myth and reality of Nazi gold in Argentina. There is a lot of legend around figures like Perón and Evita, but Tenenbaum discusses the cold reality of high-ranking Nazis like Mengele and Eichmann entering Argentina after the war.
They didn't just walk in.
They didn't just walk in. They likely paid for their refuge, and they paid with looted gold. Gold from the central banks of Europe and gold taken from their victims.
That is chilling. We hear about the legend of Evita's gold, people dedicating their whole lives to finding her supposed hidden treasure.
And Tenenbaum suggests that Evita's gold might just be laundered Nazi gold, which brings up the actual physics of laundering gold.
What do you mean the physics?
If you have looted gold bars with stamps from a central bank you robbed, or wedding rings and jewelry taken from victims, you have to melt it down to hide its origin.
So you turn a stolen bar with a swastika on it into a generic, untraceable blob. You wash the history away.
You try to. But Tenenbaum, who knows this industry, notes a specific technical detail. You lose about 1% of the gold every single time you melt it down to recast it.
1%.
It evaporates, it gets lost in the slag in the crucible. There is a literal physical cost to washing blood money, a 1% tax on the crime.
That is a grim, grim detail. 1% of the value just vanishes into the air to erase the history of where it came from. That is the tax on evil.
It is. So when we look at a gold bar today, we see this clean, shiny, perfect object. But historically, it carries the weight of empires, of wars, of survival, and of theft. It remembers everything, even when we try to make it forget.
Wow. Okay, let's try to summarize this entire journey because we have gone from ancient Babylon to the modern London Stock Exchange and from underwear smugglers in Dubai to central bankers in Zurich.
It is a wild ride, but the core message from Mookie Tenenbaum is consistent, and it's clear.
What is it?
The world is scared.
Yeah.
And when the world is scared, it buys metal. But the danger, the real trap, is the illusion.
It's a 500-to-1 ratio.
Yes. The final warning from Tenenbaum is simple. If you decide to buy gold, buy identifiable gold. Buy the physical metal you can hold, or, at the very least, a certificate that is allocated to a specific bar with a serial number that nobody else owns a claim to.
Don't be part of the 500 people fighting for that 1 ounce.
Do not be one of the 499 who are left with nothing.
Because when the music stops, you don't want to be holding a piece of paper that says IOU. You want to be holding the chair.
Exactly. We have to ask ourselves, are we buying safety, or are we just buying another, more ancient paper illusion?
That is the so what for today. We are witnessing a massive rush to the exit of the traditional financial system. But the exit door might be much, much smaller than we all think.
And here is a provocative thought to leave you with to chew on. If the global economy really is a game of musical chairs with 500 players and only one chair, what happens when the music stops? We talk about the price of gold rising, but maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. Maybe gold isn't rising at all. Maybe the dollar is just dying. And if that's true, are we witnessing the end of faith in government money entirely?
A terrifying thought to mull over. Huge thanks to Mookie Tenenbaum for his insights that powered this deep dive, and thank you all for listening.
Stay curious and maybe check your certificates.
See you next time.